Hello and welcome to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive weekly look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Lakers head coach Coach Hilbers after a 33-16 victory on the road in Lake Orion. West Bloomfield is 4-0 coming into Week 5, the first time that's happened since 2022, just the second since 2015. Pretty good start for your team, and last week, second half, definitely the better performance than the first half, but overall, what did you like from the Lakers in Week 4?
I guess that third quarter, like you mentioned, where we were still winning at halftime, which was really the message to the kids at halftime. We almost did as much wrong as we could at some point in all three phases, but we were still winning. So if we could just get out of our own way and make a couple plays, then we had a real shot to blow it open, which we did. And the fourth quarter we were able to play with like a team that had a 23-point lead, and that's obviously a lot better than a 3-point lead.
So you get through the first few minutes of that game, and it seems like it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth. Both teams kind of struggling to get into rhythm early on, and despite you being able to take an early lead after a really nice return from Obi Duru, 74 yards to open the game, a short run from Jamal Shakespeare, things started to slow down and Lake Orion started to get a little bit of momentum. What do you believe changed in those next few minutes that gave Lake Orion a little bit of that momentum and led to what was eventually your first deficit of the season?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably a combination of things. One was we actually got the ball back in their field position, had a great play call by our offensive coordinator, and just our timing was off on a pass that really could have, put them in a tough spot to begin with. But when you don't hit on that, then we fumbled the snap a few plays later, and you combine that with the fact that, they played like a team that has had some tough luck this year, but they're a proud team and a proud program, and they had kind of had their backs against the wall, and they played like it. And they had some new wrinkles and tricks up their sleeve, and they executed pretty well, on our mistakes or after our mistakes. So they kind of, played a pretty good first half, but we knew if we could kind of eliminate some mistakes, we'd have a good chance.
Big returns from your special teams, something that's popped back into play in week number 4 against Lake Orion, helped you in some of those cases where the offense may have been a little bit slowed down or the defense may have been in more of an even fight than we've been used to so far this season. How big has special teams been in their performances in recent weeks to help keep the Lakers in these games when other phases are having a little bit of a back and forth struggle?
Well, it's huge. It can definitely swing a game, and it probably did in a lot of ways on Friday, like you mentioned. So I think we've improved in a lot of ways in that department, but obviously we had a few special teams blunders as well. So if we could just play clean, I think the progress of the unit as a whole has gotten better and better.
Yeah, multiple long punt returns for West Bloomfield and kick returns last week. Of course, opening in the game early on, it was a 74-yard return for Obi, and then Kaliq with the 54-yard punt return for a touchdown later on in the ball game. It was 13-10 at the half. Pretty low scoring for the Lakers in that first half. A relatively even matchup going in. And it did seem like there was a bit of sputtering throughout the first 24 minutes for your team. What was the conversation in the locker room and adjustments that were made before going back out there to second half and, like you said, having a really solid third quarter?
I guess the conversation really was, like I said, that we've messed a lot up and we're still winning by 3. So if we can just stop making some mistakes. And we had a weird week of practice. We had some guys that were sick almost every single day and had to go to the doctors with colds, upper respiratory stuff. So I think we look like a team that's a little disjointed and then had some missing pieces throughout the week, because that's exactly what happened. But all week we kind of talked about the opportunity that comes with that, the other side of it, and that people would get opportunity that really haven't gotten it yet this year. And in the second half, when we kind of steadied ourselves, I think they stepped up and took those opportunities.
A lot of what was, as I said, the sputtering in the first 24 minutes, there were a lot of penalties being called. And that was really across the board, all three phases for both teams in favor at some point of both teams. And so that can kind of be something that happens when you have players going in and out of practices and other team discussions throughout the week. So how did your upperclassmen leadership also step up communication-wise to keep your guys in the game in those second 24 minutes, the third and fourth quarter, to make that big push against Lake Orion and ultimately win 33-16?
Well, I think it's really the reason we won, is that we had really good, what I called it was emotional leadership from the senior class that knew what it was going to take to win and that we could do it, but we had to, take the situation and the job seriously, which we did, and they didn't stop believing, and kind of have everybody focused in the second half, and I think that was what helped result in some of those big plays.
33-16 victory in week 4 against Lake Orion. For much of that second half, it was scoreless for Lake Orion, stuck at 10 points. It was a garbage time touchdown off of a penalty after time expired that led to that final score to make it 33-16. The penalty bug has at times crept in for your team in 2025, but by and large, what's been impressive for the Lakers is that when the penalties are against the other team, they're able to take big advantage of it and make something great out of it that usually shows up on the scoreboard. On the other side, when the penalties are going their way, it doesn't seem too bad, like it's starting to roll down the hill where it becomes a discipline problem. How well has your team been able to adjust when they do have those discipline issues that pop up with penalties or with miscommunications, to be able to put that in the rearview mirror and just keep playing ball each and every rep?
Well, I think penalties are always going to happen in high school football, and this is not a critique, but just because the variability in the officials week to week, they just call the game differently, and that's tough for kids that are actually, like, they do try to learn, they try to play by the rules, but when there's just variability, one thing might not be called one week, but it is the next. Doesn't mean it's not unfair in the moment, because I think it was evenly called last Friday, but it was just a little bit tighter and stricter, so you saw a lot more penalties on both teams. And that's just a learning process, for the kids that they have to step up to. But I guess to further answer your question, like, it's a little bit easier when you have a defense that can step up and stop people on a short field, because we gave them a lot of short fields, and we really kind of kept them off the scoreboard.
Yeah, by and large, it's been 16 points in total given up in these first 4 weeks. If you don't count that last touchdown from last week, it's 16 points in total. Otherwise, you get the 22, and still very impressive looking on average for 4 weeks, especially with the caliber of teams that you've gone up against. So as these first 4 weeks have come and passed, and you reflect on week 4 against Lake Orion, what do you hope that your team continues to build on from week 4, and what are you looking for them to adjust and change as they head into week 5 coming back home?
Just the generic stuff, to be honest, because, like, if you don't keep improving and getting better and growing as a team, then you're regressing, because your opponents probably are. So we just have to, take each week as a challenge. We know this is like a kind of the meaty grind of the schedule, and if we just do our job and keep fixing stuff that we need to fix, we'll have a chance every week.
Birmingham Groves coming to town on Friday, 7 o'clock kickoff at the Swamp. We'll have it for you right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. 4-0 Lakers, 2-2 Falcons. Still an OAA white and OAA red crossover. Going to be an exciting game on the gridiron on Friday night. We'll take a break on This Week in Laker Football. On the other side, one of the breakout defensive stars this year, who also had quite an impressive game in the special teams front, will join us on the program. Later on, we'll be rejoined by Coach Hilbers and preview the Birmingham Groves matchup this Friday. Stay tuned. It's This Week in Laker Football on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
There are good days, and there are days that aren't going as we planned. Days that we feel unprepared.
Mom! Call 911.
But none of that matters, because today, you were prepared for what matters most. Today, you were ready with hands-only CPR.
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive weekly look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside defensive back Kaliq Robinson. The Lakers 4-0. Defense has been on fire these first 4 weeks, limiting the amount of points going on the board. Always a good sign. And the secondary's played a huge role in that. Very tough so far for teams to complete any passes. For you personally, no quarterback's been able to complete a pass to any wide receiver in these first 4 weeks, Kaliq. What's been, in your opinion, the difference maker for you shutting down these really talented core of receivers you've matched up against?
I feel like if I shut down the receivers, my team could do what they want to do because, if they don't got to worry about the ball being thrown, we don't got to go in no zone. We could go man, so everybody could be in the box. It'd be 9 players in the box, and me, BT, could just strap up our receivers.
Preparation, I'd imagine, plays a big role in that. How does it help having the amount of talented weapons on the offensive side for this team and in getting you and the other defensive backs, others in the secondary, prepared for these tough matchups week in and week out?
It helped us a lot because, we got to go get tall receivers, short receivers. Tall receivers like Willie, short receivers like Cam, he fast. So, it gives us preparate for the week. We prep them for good DBs, but, they haven't seen no DBs like us. So, on both sides, we both good.
From a technical standpoint, what do you believe about this secondary overall, the DBs especially, that makes them such a tough matchup for these receivers?
Our team chemistry, we hype, we all together. So we mess up, we picking each other up, we not bashing nobody, we pick each other up, we next rep, good play, bad play, next play.
How's that different than in years past? Because we hear that every year from players in the secondaries, secondary players on the defensive line, offensive weapons as well, that they have a really tight-knit group. But there seems to be something different in the locker room this year. What is it?
This year, everybody friends. Last year, it was really groups. Everybody had their groups, but everybody really together. I don't think nobody's by themselves. Everybody, we all friends. Everybody talk to everybody. Team chemistry is high. I say that's what our team is.
Kaliq Robinson joins me on This Week in Laker Football. The Lakers 4-0, and for the first 4 weeks, only allowing 22 points, 16 of them last week, 6 of those without any time left on the clock. A penalty late in that Lake Orion game led to a touchdown with time expired because games can't end off of a penalty. So 22 points in 4 weeks, pretty good average for the team, Kaliq. But you've been able to see a lot of football in your 3 years now on varsity, 2 years as a starter. So you can talk about the chemistry and the leadership in the locker room. How have you taken a step forward this season, and what difference do you think you've been able to make with some of the younger players on this defense?
This year, I'm more vocal. I'm more talking to my players, talking to my little players. Last year, I was made quiet because I was kind of one of the young players. It's I ain't really want to talk to nobody. This year, I'm more talkative to my players that's younger, that's going to build us up. So I think that's what's a big change for me.
It's something we hear from a lot of players as they get into leadership roles as juniors and seniors, that they've kind of taken their time to sit back and soak it all in. How have those past 2 years, as you've been doing that, helped you prepare for the pressure of being in a leadership position on top of the pressure of your role on this defense?
The pressure was high, especially last year. It was high for me. It was my first year starting, and I had some players got on me. But my first year on varsity, we had Jameer and Bryce. It was a big role. They was some big brothers to me for sure. They basically our role model. That's what we look up to. That's what we want to keep the tradition, keep going of the DBs, because we come out DBs like Maxwell Harrison, straight dogs. So the pressure on us is very high.
And we see at all different levels of football, there's a certain level of confidence that defensive backs and safeties have, that especially when they're playing at such a high level. On your back plate, you have a message: "You shall not pass." That's a lot of confidence to bring in and week out, especially with those pictures posted on social media. Every receiver you go up against is going to see, this is the guy, that's the "you shall not pass" guy. So what role does confidence play in your ability to make plays every single week and take that pressure off of yourself because you believe you are fully prepared?
As DBs, you have to have confidence. You make one mistake, it's on us for the rest of the game. So you got to have the confidence. You got to have the swag. You got to go out there like you're the best. Even if it's, you feel me, the biggest player, the best player out there, you got to go in there with confidence. And no matter who lined up against, you got to go out and do what you got to do. So you shall not pass. That's to any receiver, no matter who you is.
So we were here 2 years ago in the state semifinal against Southfield A&T. Big expectations coming into last season, 5-6 record. Got a couple weeks into the playoffs, but didn't go very far after a Catholic Central loss in that second week of the playoffs. So as much confidence as you have, as prolific as this defense, and really on all three phases the team has been in these first 4 weeks, how do you keep this younger locker room focused and collectively the team focused on the task at hand and not get overconfident while maintaining that confidence that you just described you need to win football games?
We tell each other 0-0 every week. Even though we win a game, it's still 0-0 because you don't know what the next team got. The team could look trash that one game, but they could look good the next game. But we got to have confidence in ourselves. We could be confident in our area. Out there, the social media, that's not it. But our confidence is in our team, so we go out there every week and show our best.
Keep it in the locker room throughout the week and let the football talk on the field for 48 minutes every single Friday. Kaliq, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll take a break on This Week in Laker Football. On the other side, we got 48 minutes of football ahead with Birmingham Groves. Coach Hilbers will rejoin me here. We'll preview that game and talk about these first 4 weeks of Laker football and the rest of this regular season. Stay with us. It's This Week in Laker Football on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. We'll be right back.
Mom, did you really need to buy 2 can openers for our emergency kit?
I can't help it. They're 2 for 1. What's this?
We need to keep our family communication plan safe in case of an emergency.
Thanks, Tita.
We should think ahead to keep Mom and Dad safe when it floods this year. I've got an evacuation route loaded on my phone.
I've got an updated list of Dad's meds.
And I've got just what we need to get them to take this seriously.
Start a conversation with your family and plan together for emergencies.
Watch West Bloomfield Lakers football all season long on 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. Join Tyler Kieft and Matt Catoni each week for live, in-depth, and exclusive coverage before, during, and after the big game. It's your local high school football team on the road and in your backyard on your home for West Bloomfield Laker football, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive look every single week, all season long, into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football program on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside head coach Zach Hilbers after a Week 4 victory on the road in Lake Orion. Your Lakers coming home to West Bloomfield looking to continue sort of a revenge tour from last season. Birmingham Groves coming to town. They are 2-2 after a big win last week against Rochester, and they're coming in this season sort of a mixed bag from what we saw a year ago when they were 12-1 and they went all the way to the state semifinals, losing in a tight overtime game right here at Lakers Stadium. So an emotional matchup for both of your teams having this game in this location this coming week.
Yeah, and it's always an emotional game with them. It's easy to compare year to year, but they're a little bit different team. But when you play Groves, it's always physical football, smash mouth. They're going to make everything difficult. I've never had an easy game against them, regardless of what either roster look like. So we know it's going to be a battle, and they're still pretty tough up front on both lines.
And Coach Flaherty always has his teams prepared, and it helps too when, much like your defense returning 7 starters this year, he's returning 5 in each of the 2 main phases, offense and defense. How does that also factor in? Your defense being familiar, particularly with those offensive players, but also that experience gap between their defense and your offense.
Well, they also had a lot of guys that were on a semifinal team last year, and they got used to the process of winning and saw a lot of success. So they know what it takes, and they know what it takes to beat us. They did it last year, and I think our kids are kind of locked in for that reason.
A record comes into play at this time of the year. You start to look at these matchups and think, okay, undefeated Lakers, 500 team in Birmingham Groves, but the level of competition that high school teams are scheduling, especially in the OAA in 2025, that also has to be a factor in this because they may be a 2-2 team, but they're a couple plays away in that Oxford game from being 3-1, and they've shown a lot of promise coming into this game in Week 5.
Oh yeah, they're always going to fight. They're going to battle, and we expect it to be like a knock them down, knock it out, slugfest, because that's just what it always is. So yeah, they're just like Lake Orion. They're a proud team, proud program, and they have an identity, and they really believe in it.
And that being a smash mouth sort of team that Coach Flaherty always prepares each and every year, does that change your approach practice-wise, getting ready for that physicality as you come into this week that may be a little bit different than what we've seen in the past 4?
I don't know. It's a good question, but for all the bells and whistles and stuff you can do in football, it usually comes down to blocking and tackling at the end of the day. So that's been our message all year, is to try to be the more physical team. I thought last year when we played them, they were more physical and they won. So we kind of challenge the guys every week to be the more physical team up front, back half, special teams, wherever it's needed. And I know that's their mentality as well. So for that reason, it should be a pretty good matchup.
Last season, that matchup in week 2 definitely seemed very lopsided, especially in favor of Groves. They won by 15, but throughout that game, it seemed like they really had their handle on the driver's seat. This season, it's a completely different team that you have out there. The mindset is clearly different. The leadership has firm control of this locker room. How does that make a difference, do you think, coming into this particular game versus what happened on the field in Birmingham a year ago?
Well, they definitely believe right now, and if you believe and you got a little bit of confidence, that goes a long way, especially when you're talking about 15, 16, or 17-year-old kids, that the coaching comes a little bit easier when they've seen the rewards, I guess, and they've seen what happens if they buy in. So I guess the important thing is to not be overconfident, but still confident in what you can do.
Does it help to have a coach like Cornell Wheeler on now as an assistant coach who, despite him being an assistant coach on your team now, he's still only just a few years removed from being on this team. So he's familiar with the territory. He's familiar with high school football in the modern age. How does that help communication-wise to put that context in place for a now 4-0 team as you get into the thick of your schedule?
It's been invaluable. Like, he's got a great relationship with the kids. I think it's just easier with his age. He's not too far removed from him, like you said. But he also knows his stuff. He knew his stuff when he was a high school player, and obviously after 5 years of playing big-time college football, he's really, really knowledgeable. So the ability to communicate stuff well with kids and then also know what you're talking about, and we never have to question his motives because, he came from here, grew up here, and, we're really glad he's still here.
And you're able to see that level of football come into play in his record at West Bloomfield High School, being on some of the most successful teams in this Laker program's history, and being there, witnessing in the years leading up to it some of the most successful teams. I noted it earlier on in the show. The Lakers are 4-0 after the first 4 weeks of the season. That has only happened twice since 2015. 2015, 2022. Neither of those seasons ended up being championship years, but those were big years in setting up some of the most successful seasons in Laker football history. What about this team, do you think, differs from those that makes possibly this team in 2025 be really scary come the last weeks of the season and especially in the playoff time?
Well, I think, our resiliency right now is what you need for a successful football team. That's what you need to be at. And we've really shown that, I think. It's funny you asked to compare it to 10 years ago. That was when we were first kind of turning the corner as a program, where we had good players and we had won some big games, but we hadn't done it time and time again. And that was the first time we really, I guess, took that next leap. And then it was about, growing from that point, not just making the playoffs, but trying to win games in the playoffs and learning how that has to get done because it's a different game. So I don't know, you kind of combine all the experience that some of the coaches that have been around that long have with the kids' mentality. We hope it's the right recipe to make a run.
Lakers coming into this week 4-0, Groves coming in 2-2. They've had a couple of close matchups that have in some ways gone their way and others not. Oxford was a 21-24 loss. Last week they were able to break out against a very good team in 2025 in Rochester that's shown some promise in a 35-7 matchup. So as we're just a few days removed from that game, what's the message in the locker room with Groves coming in, wanting to turn 4-0 into 5-0, especially when you've got Oxford and Clarkston coming up, two games that always require teams to be at 100%?
Yeah, I think this one does too, to be honest. We got to be at our best to win on Friday, but the kids know that. They know what happened last year, and they're really eager just to play and prove that we're a different team and we're in a different place.
Different mindset, different team, but the Lakers firing on every cylinder right now after 4 weeks of football. Long season still ahead, but plenty of promise from this team in those first 4 games. Coach, appreciate it as always.
You got it. Thank you.
Lakers kick off at 7 o'clock on Friday night. Birmingham Groves coming to town. We'll have live coverage for you all evening long right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. For our entire team at Civic Center TV and on behalf of the West Bloomfield High School Athletic Department, I'm Tyler Kieft. Thanks for tuning in to This Week in Laker Football.